My little sister's death transformed me from my naturally rebellious self into the continent's strongest warrior, all because I could never escape from this dark shadow, combined with a family's long-term abuse accusations and deliberate alienation. I chose to run away from home and live in anonymity. I was indeed once that hopeless madman, a stubborn youth without any combat ability, but to find and make amends with my little sister's murderer, I had to become stronger first, and my power needed to be second to none. In the end, it happened just as I wished. After 22 years as a mercenary, I accumulated countless fame, honor, and wealth. People called me the king of mercenaries, but just when I was ready to return to my family and make up for past mistakes, my family house Perome had already fallen into complete ruins. Fortunately, heaven showed mercy after my head was cut off by my family's enemies. It granted me a chance to live again. Now, looking at my reflection in the water, my heart was filled with confusion. Indeed, I didn't yet realize I had been reborn. Why was there no wound on my neck? Could it be that they captured me for magical experiments? At that moment, a soldier walked in saying, "Young master, I knew you were awake." I recognized him. He was Ricardo, a soldier of House Perome. But to uncover the truth, I drew my sword and held him hostage. "If you don't want today to be your death anniversary, answer my next questions truthfully, unexpectedly under my threat." Ricardo just sighed deeply. "Young master, doing this won't change anything. No means no." I was bewildered and asked, "What nonsense are you talking about?" The next second, this guy suddenly pushed me away. "You just tired yourself out and fell asleep. How could you forget everything so quickly? You absolutely cannot have command of the orc subjugation force. Hurry and pack your things. We need to return to House Pum's main city today." And at the moment I heard those 4 words, I immediately grabbed Ricardo's shoulder. Wasn't House Perome destroyed long ago? After that, Ricardo took me to a cliff overlooking the main city. Then he whispered quietly, "Young master, even if you're poor, there's no need to curse your own family with destruction. If the Lord hears this, you'll be whipped." I pinched my cheek hard. This pain confirmed it wasn't a dream, which means I have indeed been reborn. But it's too early to rejoice. Those forces threatening my family had likely already begun implementing their elimination plans from much earlier. However, I first need to deal with what's about to happen. Ricardo just mentioned something about commanding against the orcs. How could I forget this memory at that time? I wanted to earn merit, so I ignored all warnings and followed the subjugation force to this northern fortress. Intelligence suggested 3 orcs would attack, which sparked my desire to command the battle. After all, dealing with merely 3 orcs seemed trivial, but reality proved far different. There weren't just 3 orcs, but a terrifying number of nearly 200. This directly led to House Perome's subjugation, force suffering heavy casualties. Fortunately, there was still some time before the orc invasion. I had ample time to simulate and perfect the subjugation plan, but just as I finished speaking, a watchtower in front of me was smashed to pieces. At the same time, the patrolling soldiers sounded the alarm. The orcs had appeared. But faced with the large-scale orc assault, the thinly spread soldiers quickly fell into defeat. Suddenly, a command rang out from the distance. All soldiers remained calm, prepared defensive formation. This was Commander Skov, the leader of the subjugation force. But he quickly realized something was wrong. This number was far beyond what their subjugation force could handle. Continuing to fight would only lead to total annihilation. While Skoven was stunned, an orc suddenly launched a sneak attack from his flank. Seeing this, I immediately charged forward and pushed him behind me. Sen watched everything in shock as I faced an axe wielded by someone even larger than myself. My upward slash directly cut both the orc's weapon and arm in half. After defeating this orc, I walked steadily towards Skov and ordered, "Give me command of the subjugation force." But in their current life or death situation, how could Skov possibly hand command over to a madman? I'm sorry, young Master Cecil. This old man is powerless to help. This is not a child's war game. Essie's response gave me a headache, but I couldn't entirely blame him if I were him. I also wouldn't hand something so important to a good-for-nothing who couldn't even hold up mud. With no choice, I had to resort to Plan B, just as Skov prepared to face the attacking orcs, I standing behind him. Suddenly through my swordfly, Skov nearly struck, grabbed my collar and roared, "Young Master, can you stop causing trouble?" But as he finished speaking, he realized that previous attack had actually hit the orc's most vital weak point. Then I asked Sane, "Do you know what's most fundamental in battle if even your fighting spirit is ground down? I'm sure you know the final outcome better than I do." After saying this, I no longer cared about command authority. I charged fearlessly into the orc horde among the flashing blades. I wielded my sword with complete ease. A small number of orcs posed absolutely no threat to me, but this shocked Skov for a full 2.5 years. He felt like he was dreaming. How could the good-for-nothing young master who couldn't even grasp magic now fight single-handedly against the brutal orcs? These miraculous sword techniques, this simple yet agile footwork in Skov's eyes. I was as formidable as a battle-hardened swordmaster, meanwhile facing the increasing number of orcs. And my rapidly depleting stamina, I could only resort to taunting like other manga protagonists. I haven't even warmed up yet, to be honest. "You, warrior race, aren't much under my provocative taunts, basically. All the orcs were lured to one spot. As for the rest, I could only leave them to Skovan's fate. Fortunately, he didn't disappoint me when all the soldiers thought I was simply running away. He saw through my battle plan. All soldiers quickly form shield wall formation and advance at full speed to support the young master's position at this point. Although I had been cornered by the orcs at the cliff, seeing the scene behind me, I couldn't help but smile. Then I leaped down toward the bottom of the cliff. I leave the rest to you now." Scene commanded everyone push these damned orcs off the cliff. In the end, the subjugation force achieved victory with only 10% casualties, but this was actually also redemption. For my past life's mistakes at this time, Skov spotted me hanging from my sword on the cliff face. He wanted to reach out and pull me up, but exhausted as I was, I couldn't even hold on to my sword anymore. Suddenly a voice appeared in my mind. "Elder brother, please take me with you." It was my little sister. Elena's voice. After that, I awakened from this dream, having fallen from the cliff. I miraculously survived, but having pushed my power to the limit during battle, my entire body now aches so much that even breathing was difficult. Just then, the person I had most admired appeared. Her name was Belinda, my maid since childhood. She was also a teacher in my life after the family's destruction. All I could find related to her was just a worn-out shoe. Now Belinda was scolding me for my recklessness, but the next second I hugged her tightly. "Belinda, I'm so happy to see you again." "What's there to be happy about, young master? Don't we see each other every day?" Hearing this, I made a bold decision to tell her about my identity as a reborn person. "Listen, Belinda, in the near future, House Perham will face a great crisis. Don't ask me how I know, because I am someone who died and was reborn." However, Belinda simply wouldn't believe me. Yes, young master has been reborn, but what I want to tell you is that House Pum's real crisis is you, young master. Seeing I was still chattering away, Belinda then gave me a 2.5 hour relative-style lecture afterwards. She asked if I would attend the festival in a week. Hearing this, my pupils suddenly contracted. Belinda thought I had forgotten this important event, joking that if Miss Elena knew, she would definitely be angry. But the truth wasn't so simple, because the day of the festival was when Elena met her tragic end, this memory that had tormented me for a lifetime. I had to change it no matter what. Just then Elena pushed open the door and entered. She had come specifically to check on me. Seeing her, immediately hugged her tightly and said emotionally, "Elder brother has missed you." Hearing this, Elena felt utterly disgusted. "Quick, get away from me. What kind of prank are you pulling now?" Elena's push almost left me breathless. I had to admit my little sister's talent far surpassed mine to have such strength at such a young age, but what I said next actually shocked both Belinda and Elena. I'm sorry, I was indeed too excited just now. What the young master actually apologizing voluntarily. You were right to call me here, Belinda. My elder brother's brain really has been kicked. Silly by those orcs. Hearing this, I wanted to argue back. But that pain suddenly swept through my body again, watching me collapse in pain on the ground. Their expressions of looking at an idiot actually made me feel healed. Everyone was still the same as always. This was the life I wanted most. As for what needed to be done next, I had to start training first. This time I absolutely won't let Elena's killer succeed. After that I found old man Fergus. He was in charge of managing House Pum's training grounds. Take me to the unused training ground. I need to practice. Fergus felt like the sun had risen from the west because since birth what I hated most was training. The scene changed, and Fergus led me to a very new training ground. Looking at the complete equipment inside, I felt deeply ashamed. Even after becoming the king of mercenaries, I never had such treatment from old man first. His words, I finally understood this training ground had always been exclusively mine because they worried I might suddenly need to use it. The equipment was constantly maintained and repaired. I'm not good at expressing thanks, old man Fergus. You must live well. The feeling of death is really terrible. Young master, have you experienced it once? Hearing this, my eyes suddenly lit up. Finally, someone who understood. That's right. I am someone who died and was reborn, but the result was the same as with Belinda. Fergus simply didn't believe it. But I didn't care anymore after sending old man Fergus away. I was about to begin my first training session now, sitting cross-legged on the ground. I recalled the training methods recorded in books from my previous life. For me, who had spent years on battlefields, creating the first mana core was as simple as eating, and with the appearance of 3 mana core, I directly forced myself to link them together. Although its success meant my first training had reached the 3rd level of mana core, due to the body's overuse, I suffered backlash with blood flowing from my 7 apertures. Seems this is my current limit in my past life. Even risking half my life, I only reached the 5th level of mana. But that's fine. The 3rd level is already enough to let me release explosive power in a short time. Moreover, those people would never send top experts from their family just to deal with a little girl. This is when I suddenly realized the reason for my defeat in my previous life. Although this training method could make me temporarily stronger, the mana consumption would also increase more rapidly. Fortunately, reborn into this life, I had 2 major advantages: a young body and sufficient time. So the obstacle of raising my mana value to its ultimate limit would no longer exist. In the last life, you cut off my head. In this life, I'll definitely make each of you pay back. Just you wait, you worthless scum who only know how to hide in darkness and play dirty tricks. And you Duke DeLine who destroyed my house. Perum time quickly arrived at the evening of the festival a week later. At this point, I was fully armed and prepared when my little sister Elena saw me. She showed a surprised expression. I didn't expect you'd actually have free time to attend the festival. In previous years, I couldn't even see your shadow. And I heard that you've been buried in training at the practice grounds these past few days. Are you sure your head wasn't really kicked wrong by those orcs? To this I replied that as House Pum's first heir, becoming stronger to protect the family was naturally my duty. Elena was speechless. Previously, I had been extremely resistant to inheritance. Sometimes she even hoped I would fall seriously ill or die in battle to give the heir position to her. My goodness, I'm fighting to death trying to save your life, and you actually wished for my quick death in return. But seeing Elena seemed to be enjoying tonight's festival, I decided not to argue with her anymore. After a week of investigation, I found the main city and streets showed no abnormal phenomena compared to usual. And even though I knew some intelligence about the future, I couldn't calculate unknown events from these. In other words, every move in this unknown game of chess had to be made by me. Then, under Elena's guidance, we tasted various festival street foods, but since the festival preparations were largely the same every year, Elena quickly grew tired of it, truly hoping something innovative would appear this year. In contrast, I was Indifferent to this, constantly observing everything around us, perhaps because I stayed too close to Eleanor. Even as the first day of the festival was nearly over, the other side still hadn't shown any signs. But just as I was contemplating whether to visit the main city next, a soldier came over telling Elena there was a special program being held somewhere ready to take her to see it, and Elena thoughtlessly took the soldier's hand. The one on the left was called Jamal, the right one Philip. They had grown up with Elena since childhood, being the most trusted personal guards in the territory, but at this moment everything became clear to me. These two had always been traitors, hidden by Elena's side. The scene changed. Philip pointed ahead, saying, "This is where the special program will be held." But the venue was empty. Not a single person in sight. Except for them, Elena found it hard to imagine what could be worth watching in such a dirty place, so she started berating Philip quickly. "Take me somewhere else, or I'll cut your wages when we get back." In contrast, I kept observing the surrounding environment. At first glance, this indeed looked like a rarely visited street, but in reality, it perfectly blocked all escape routes. Just then I was pulled away by a sudden force. It turned out Philip wouldn't take Elena somewhere fun, making her so angry she wanted to pull me home to sleep. Unexpectedly, the next second, Jamal blocked Elena's path. He warned with a vicious look, "I told you to wait. If you don't listen, I'll cut you into pieces right now." These words frightened Elena so much her whole body trembled. "What do you two want to do to us? I warn you, if we don't return today, the people of the territory won't let you get away with this." Philip also decided to drop his act. "Of course, it's because we received a quite nice commission. Just be good and wait here. Otherwise, don't blame me for being too rough." As he finished speaking, 3 tall men walked up behind Philip. If I hadn't guessed wrong, they must be the clients. Behind these 2 traders, "Well done, such high efficiency." Philip responded, "Of course, now we brought the person. Please don't forget our payment." "My dear boss." The man in the hat didn't respond because he saw a very familiar face. "Isn't this House Pum's useless young master?" The commission didn't mention bringing him to Philip explained this. "Fool followed on his own. Consider it an extra gift for you. The payment can stay the same after." Philip finished, I said coldly. "Don't think you can sell us out and still escape from here safely, young master. You'd better worry about yourself first. These people aren't pushovers. Besides, I've long grown tired of this poor house. Perum being poor is one thing, but having to fight orcs at the border. Every day I'm sick of this life." But just as Philip finished speaking, I drew the sword at my waist. With just one strike, I instantly killed him. Seeing this, Jamal beside him was stunned, his mouth trembling so much he couldn't speak. This is the fate of those who betray the territory. "Now it's your turn, Jamal." Hearing this, he hurriedly grabbed Elena, trying to use her as a hostage. But before he could even draw his sword, my blade had already pierced the top of his head. It seems Jamal wouldn't be able to close his eyes in death, because until his death he couldn't imagine that the waste who only knew how to play around had today used mana to kill him. Now seeing Elena's emotions becoming increasingly unstable, so as not to interfere with my upcoming actions, I decided to knock her unconscious. First, let her sleep for a while, which would also prevent her from seeing the bloodier scenes to come. Meanwhile, the man in the hat was surprised after seeing me instantly kill 2 soldiers. Basically, everyone on the continent knew that House Perry's young man master couldn't even handle a sword properly, let alone use mana. "Young master, it seems you've been hiding your strength all along." I didn't respond, but instead pulled out the sword stuck in the soldier's head, though there were 3 people. The 2 on the left and right had negligible mana. Only the man in the hat might be somewhat difficult to deal with. It seems I can't drag this out too long. But I still want to know who exactly ordered you to kill my little sister. The man in the hat showed complete disdain. "I only know that's unnecessary for someone about to die. If that's the case, then I'll beat you into submission before asking." Suddenly, the 2 underlings beside the man in the hat drew their swords and charged at me. "Catch him alive. Let the young master experience what it feels like to be tortured, unable to die." Seeing this, I remained completely calm, took out a small bomb from my bag and threw it out. Then, seizing the moment of its explosion, I instantly stepped and thrust, killing one of them instantly. The other man, seeing me expose an opening after attacking immediately, slashed at my side without hesitation. Little did he know, his attack pattern had already been seen through a simple block, perfectly defended against it. Then I caught his blade with my right hand and yanked hard to take his weapon without a weapon. He was purely like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. I easily disposed of another enemy, but just then, I detected waves of killing intent from behind the man in the hat. Thought his sneak attack would succeed, yet he didn't know that I, battle-hardened, was extremely sensitive to killing intent. Such underhanded methods could hardly harm me. Therefore, the man in the hat was quite bewildered. He couldn't imagine how this strange sword grip could block his attack. The only possibility was that I was still hiding my true strength. Taking advantage of his moment of confusion, I quickly rotated 180 degrees to attack his lower body, even though he jumped up in advance, but my dual-wielding attack methods were ever-changing. An upward strike successfully landed on the man in the hat's neck, but I never expected that after hitting such a vital spot, the man in the hat still had strength to counterattack. Fortunately, I immediately adjusted my position and barely managed to block it, now seeing the dense mana at the wound on his neck. I understood why that slash hadn't taken his head. I didn't expect you'd know such a defensive technique, concentrating mana at certain body parts to reduce damage, although the man in the hat felt my sword techniques were quite strange. Under absolute power superiority, any struggle would be futile. Die, you damn brat, with your mana level. You absolutely cannot defeat me. And the current situation was indeed, as the man in the hat said, I was in a passive state, but he definitely couldn't guess that I was doing this to test exactly what level his strength was at. Is this all you've got, old man? Speaking. Thus I used my two swords to brace against the ground, to stabilize myself, then began charging power in my left foot. Then I rushed straight at his face with a heavy kick, seeing the man in the hat couldn't adjust in time. I thought this kick still wouldn't cause him actual damage. But just as he was about to gloat, a wave of dizziness suddenly struck his mind. His mouth spewing large amounts of tomato juice, now looking at his uncontrollably trembling body. The man in the hat couldn't believe it previously. My sword couldn't break through his defense now he had been kicked to pieces, but such a reaction was normal. How could someone at just the first Manicore level defeat me at the third level? Die, you damned old man. As I spoke, I charged in with my dual swords for a thrust under my powerful and swift slashes. The man in the hat's block seemed so sloppy, finally his hand shook uncontrollably. The sword in his hand developed large cracks about to shatter, and with my final power strike, the man in the hat's sword broke. His chest was cut open with a huge gash, but I couldn't finish him off yet. He still hadn't answered my question from earlier. So to be safe, I decided to destroy his mana core. Now I punched his neck and asked, "I'll ask one more time, who ordered you to come kill my little sister?" Suddenly a hidden weapon shot out from the man in the hat's sleeve, and his target was Elena lying on the ground. But I wouldn't let him succeed so easily. My mana could be extracted for use before the battle even began. I had anticipated that despicable people would use despicable methods, so I had created mana threads in advance. I warn you not to try any more tricks. Hurry up and answer the question if you make me happy. Perhaps I'll pull out the sword and spare your life. Seeing the man in the hat still not responding, I increased the pressure, letting the sword touch his monore, and feeling his monore being damaged, the man in the hat finally became anxious. "You crazy brat. Are you mad? If the mana core detonates, we both be blown to pieces." Hearing this, I coldly said, "I know that, of course, but that only happens in the hands of those without real ability." Now, as the mana leakage became increasingly outrageous, even producing lightning and sparks, the man in the hat finally realized I wasn't bluffing in the end. He conceded all. "Right, All right, I surrender. It was Duke Deline who ordered Count Desmond to instruct us. He wanted to use this opportunity to provoke conflict between House Perum and House DLED to start a war. Then they would just need to wait and profit from it. Sure enough, it was Duke Deli's dirty work. In my previous life, he would usually have dukes under him or other families following him. Do such filthy things, never showing his face even once. Then I told the man in the hat, in my previous life I learned a lesson that you can never show mercy to despicable people. As you've heard, I am a reborn person who died and came back to life with that. I didn't give the man in the hat a chance to breathe suddenly, using force to destroy his manicore. But just then, the man in the hat still tried to resist with his barely movable head. But such an attack wasn't even worth scratching to me. And so I eliminated the last enemy, just as the first day of the festival came to an end. Seeing Elena lying safely on the ground, I could finally put down my weapon and relax my vigilance. But the next second, a wave of pain suddenly swept through my entire body. Sure enough, this body that had just recently started training couldn't sustain the third level of manicore for long periods. It seems I'll need to train diligently in the future. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if those thorny characters from my previous life suddenly appeared. Then I ran to a house not far away. The man in the hat had just said that killing Elena was meant to provoke conflict between House Perum and House DLED. Actually, I already knew this in my previous life. When Elena's body was discovered, the eldest son of House DLED was lying beside her. After that, he would be blamed for Elena's murder. It was from this moment that my House Perum secretly had a time bomb planted, so to prevent this from being discovered, I decided to destroy the evidence. How could I reborn into this life, let you succeed so easily? And just as I was leaving with Elena on my back, a man in black suddenly appeared on the tree branch behind me, but soon he disappeared into thin air again. Little did they know, this man was the middleman planning to assassinate Elena. However, due to the plan's failure, the man in black was now facing criticism from his superiors. Damn it, you can't even handle a little girl. It seems you're quite careless in choosing assassins. Hearing this, the man in black hurriedly explained that it was because of the young master of House Perum. Before he could finish, everyone slammed the table forcefully, as they all knew how could someone already deemed a hopeless waste by the family possibly interfere with their operation. I think you're making up lies to cover up your failure. Please calm down, my lords. The only explanation is that the information circulating about the young master of House Perum is seriously fraudulent. I witnessed his mana power firsthand. It might even be higher than mine. This led me to hesitate, taking action, so I decided to return and report this matter. But rest assured, my lords, this plan wasn't a complete failure. The assassination of House de Gold's eldest son was successful, so please give me another chance to make amends. Little did they know these people all held refusing attitudes, saying if you can't even handle 2 kids, it's hard for us to believe you can continue to do good work. Suddenly, a stern voice came from the darkness. Everyone shut up. Then he asked, I'll give you the chance you want, but if the plan fails again, you should know the consequences better than I do. The man in black eagerly guaranteed that he had found a suitable person to eliminate the young master of House Perum. This person's name is Cain Lowes. As everyone knows, besides being exceptionally skilled with a sword at such a young age, his natural brute strength means he has no peers among those his age in the Northern Territories. Most importantly, Cain is that House Perum young master's cousin. Meanwhile, at House Main City, Fergus specifically came to find me at the training grounds, but suddenly he was shocked when he saw me using mana threads to retrieve a sword from the wall. So he asked, puzzled, young master, how did you do that? Oh, you mean this? These are called mana threads. They're special threads created from mana power. Hearing this, Fergus felt quite ashamed. He had thought his years of magical training gave him rich experience, yet at Such a young age I had invented such a novel way of using magic, but it was normal for Fergus to feel this way. After all, half a month ago, I couldn't even use magic now. Not only had my sword skills greatly improved, but my mana power had also increased significantly. Nevertheless, it was worth being happy about. This kind of young master was truly worthy of being the first heir. Also, thank you for protecting Lady Eleanor Young. Master, what's there to thank as her elder brother protecting her safety? Is my responsibility. Scene change. I was now preparing to enjoy lunch with Elena, and seeing that Elena was safe in this life made me truly happy, but that was only for the current stage. Those people definitely wouldn't give up their assassination attempts after just one failure. So the only way to change the history of House Pum's destruction wasn't just about increasing my own strength, but more importantly about improving the family's military power. But just as the maid was serving breakfast, I was dumbfounded, thinking why dessert was being served before the main course. So I asked Belinda and learned of something terrifying. Our family had become so poor we could barely afford food. Meanwhile, noisy clamoring could be heard from outside the window. It turned out that since this year's festival was forcibly cancelled after just one day, the merchants who hadn't made any money collectively came to the castle demanding compensation. Call the Lord out, or we'll tear down the castle and sell it for scrap. Seeing the situation, I felt extremely uneasy in my heart, looking at these people's mental state. If we don't stop them, they really might tear down the castle. Then I asked old Fergus, why don't you take some soldiers down there, use force to intimidate them first, then find a way to appease their emotions to this? Fergus indicated he was also helpless, as due to increased orc attacks on the northern frontier, most of the young soldiers in the city had been gathered to provide support. Moreover, there was also the forest of monsters not far to the left, where monsters could suddenly emerge and attack House Parum at any time. At this point, after learning of these terrible things, I was completely stunned. It was bad enough that the family had no money, but for military power to be this weak too. No wonder they met such a quick end of destruction in my previous life. Then I pulled Belinda close to whisper something. I remember you've always managed my money, right? Why don't we use my money to compensate those merchants first? Belinda indicated that I had nothing left because you used to spend money so wastefully. The Count hasn't given you any allowance since then. Lend me some. Hearing this, Belinda just smiled without saying anything. Fortunately, the merchants were just putting on a show, and after a while they left the castle and went back. Money may not be everything, but having no money is definitely impossible to work with. I must find a way to make money next. Just then, a soldier suddenly ran over to report urgently. Young Master, something terrible has happened outside. Young Master C says he wants to meet you in person. After I rushed to the scene, the defending soldiers and Skov had been beaten down and were lying there barely breathing. Seeing this situation, my anger instantly skyrocketed. You're C, right? Long time no see, you worthless cousin. I remembered his face very clearly. He was Count Loa's first heir, and there was an alliance relationship between them and House Parum. In my previous ignorant life, Cain was indeed my only friend, but also an enemy at this point. I asked the soldier Ricardo behind me what exactly had happened before Cain caused trouble. Hearing this, Ricardo explained shamefully that after young Master Cain arrived at the main city, he and Commander Skov had gone together to welcome him. But as soon as they met, young Master Cain asked about the rumors concerning you. Even though Scene told everything according to the facts, Cain still insisted it was all made up, so young Master Cain punished them on charges of deliberate deception. That's how things happened. But just as Ricardo finished speaking, Cain said disdainfully, "Of course you servants deserve punishment for speaking wrongly, otherwise where would our authority as masters be?" But what's really funny is that this old man actually claimed you could easily kill orcs without proper training, and even punish 2 soldiers who betrayed the family at the same time. Who would believe that everyone knows your House Prum's useless poison? It seems that after living again, those who were dogs remain dogs. The words they speak still make people sick in my previous life. Every time this guy came to House Perum, there would definitely be endless incidents. He would cause trouble everywhere and even say I had instructed him to do it, although I had tried hard to explain it was all Kane's doing, but since I was naturally mischievous, of course no one believed what I said. Moreover, Kane had always had excessive confidence since childhood, and everything he did showed an impressive manner, which gave many people a good and expectant impression of him. At this point, Kane was somewhat confused, because previously whenever I faced Kane's provocations, I would definitely resist to the death. This led to him being unable to smoothly carry out the next part of the plan. It turned out that not long ago, the man in black who had previously planned to kill Elena found Kane asking him to eliminate House Perry's young master and promised that after success, that Lord would provide support for House Lowe's power. Kane was naturally tempted, but now the other party was nominally House Pum's heir, and he didn't know how to handle this matter. Hearing this, the man in black revealed the plan he had thought of beforehand. You go provoke that waste into dueling with you, then halfway through secretly create some small accidents to take his life. At that time, you don't need to worry. I will disguise myself as a guard knight and accompany you. I can help adjust for any unexpected situations in time. Such valuable opportunities don't come often. Although Kane was worried for a moment, but for the sake of making his family powerful again, he finally agreed without any hesitation. It seems this waste has indeed changed quite a bit. The level of tolerance is truly eye-opening for me. Need to find a way to provoke him. Since I'm here as the host, young master, shouldn't you properly entertain me just as the festival was forced to end? To revive the atmosphere, of course we need. To have some exciting fun. We've always gotten along well in this aspect, haven't we? Hearing his words, I thought of some previous things. Every time C came, he would always demand wine and maids at that time because I was afraid of being beaten. I always followed his orders, but it was also because of him that my allowance was spent completely. Speaking of money, this is what I need most right now since C came today. Let's properly settle all the previous accounts. Seeing me not taking any action, C got impatient. Hurry up and go prepare for me. Otherwise, unexpectedly, before he could finish, I interrupted him. I think the one who should prepare is you. Right, the money you spent previously at House Perum was all my money. Let me calculate. Principal plus interest totals 1,000 gold coins. Hearing this, Kane said these were all voluntary actions you took to get close to me. If you don't understand what friendship fees are, go back to your mother's womb and start over. Friend, do you think you deserve to use that word? You purely treated me like a cash cow. Before I'm warning you, before I beat you up, you'd better pay back every coin you owe me at this point. Kane's expression suddenly darkened, and Ricardo, who was watching from the side, also instantly realized I had said the wrong thing. This would likely enrage Kane. Suddenly Kane stood up. Don't think you were powerful just because your knight told a few lies. A waste is still a waste in front of my strength. You're just a pile of... And just as Kane finished speaking, he immediately swung his fist as big as a sandbag at me. In contrast, I wasn't worried at all when his attack was just 1 cm away. I easily dodged to the side. Seeing this, Kane thought it was purely luck and immediately swung his fist again for a side chop. Little did he know I had already predicted his prediction. Dodging down in advance, a powerful uppercut landed directly on C's ribs, but this was far from enough. Then my fist charged straight at his face, but unexpectedly it was blocked by Kane's hand. However, strangely enough, even though this guy's expression was still smiling, the next second he was howling in pain on the ground. Meanwhile, the man in black, disguised as a guard, immediately seized this opportunity. Young master, are you all right? I knew Kane was faking it, just didn't know what advantage this guy could get from acting this way. Stop playing dead. C unexpectedly The man in black suddenly shouted, "Why did you hit our young master doing this? Will only affect our relationship as allied nations." But his words weren't actually directed at me, but rather to attract passing bystanders, making these people unanimously claim that I had bullied. Cain, however, by now I had already guessed Kun's intentions. "If that's how you want it, I won't show any mercy on the other side." The man in black also praised C's acting skills, saying now anyone would think I was solely at fault. As for what comes next, of course it was time to begin today's main performance. "I will definitely kill you." Heaven sent opportunity to restore house lows. I absolutely cannot miss it easily. Then C took out a blue glove, preparing to throw it at me to propose a duel, but I beat him to it. "I, Cecil Perum, formally challenge you, Cain Lows, to a duel. Insulting me is one thing, but you dare run wild in my house Perum territory, even injuring my castle knights. I will properly settle accounts with you today." Hearing this, Cain found it extremely laughable. "I know you're stupid, but I didn't expect you'd be stupid enough to deliver yourself an opportunity to enter the grave. I accept your challenge, but if you want to regret it, I'm afraid you'll have to wait until you're in hell." Facing Cain's pressure, I didn't flinch one bit. Instead, I instructed Ricardo to find those merchants who had come to the main city demanding compensation earlier, and tell the merchants there was a project here for them to make big money. And as Can and I stood on the arena, the surroundings were instantly crowded with spectators who had come to watch the excitement. So naturally, this would also help drive up the stall income, because people watching the excitement all knew it was better to eat while watching. Moreover, this duel added an additional betting session. Odds of 0.1 to 1 for Can and 10 to 1 for me, but unsurprisingly, everyone who bet knew Khan's strength was very strong, so they were willing to bet everything they had on his victory at this point. C said mockingly, "You've actually turned such a sacred duel into a gambling match, but it doesn't matter. Let me tell you first, I won't accept you raising your hand to surrender midway until you're crippled or even dead by my own hands." Hearing this, I told him to talk less, since so many spectators had gathered. "Let us hurry and begin." But suddenly the man in black shouted that this duel couldn't proceed yet because no one present was willing to bet on me. But at the same time, he also offered a suggestion: either bet my life on myself, or see if there was any fool willing to bet on me. As a result, the scene instantly fell silent, since it was clearly a sure win. They wouldn't be stupid enough to voluntarily be that fool. Seeing this, Cain also chimed in, mockingly, "Looks like you're not doing too well as House Pum's future, ere even your own common people don't support you unexpectedly." Just as he finished speaking, Scov and Ricardo suddenly appeared at the scene with a bag of money. "I want to bet on our young master's victory, not only that, even Ela and Belinda specially rushed over. Is this money enough to let the duel proceed normally? If not, we can add more. Enough." The person in charge of betting called out repeatedly. As soon as the bell rang, the duel officially began. Then I told Cain, "Since I am your cousin after all, I'll let you have the chance to strike first. Come at me, but better not disappoint those supporting you." Cain was amused by my words. "Then, as little brother, I will respectfully comply, but if you want to win, you might as well go home and take a big nap first." With that said, Cain immediately launched himself up with a burst. Although his physique far exceeded his peers, his movement speed wasn't slow at all. Fortunately, I reacted in time to raise my sword to block, and since Cain's strength was naturally greater than this body of mine, so I absolutely couldn't get stuck in prolonged direct confrontations with him. Little did I know, this guy could actually forcibly cancel the recovery after his attack. His skin so hard even the sword blade couldn't hurt him. He was seen reverse gripping his sword and swinging the pommel end at me, though I still managed to dodge unharmed. But his offensive hadn't diminished one bit, a powerful kick coming straight from my crown. At this point, I didn't even have a chance to counterattack on the arena, and the spectators were already preparing to collect their money. Even Belinda thought the match should be stopped, believing I absolutely couldn't beat C. It should be known that the reason Cain's strength far exceeded his peers was because his Attacks were too vicious to the point where opponents could only keep dodging and running before finding a chance to counterattack, while Cain only needed to catch the openings in his opponent's escape patterns to achieve victory in one strike. Looks like you have improved your skills quite a bit, but only in running away techniques with that, said Cain. Began spinning his sword, then he grabbed the blade with both hands. This was his usual technique for increasing attack power. After I clashed with this move of his, the powerful impact instantly sent me flying into the air. C on the ground was charging up for a fatal strike, but just when everyone thought I was about to be defeated, I concentrated magic power in my feet, allowing me to break in mid-air, just in time. Then I reversed my grip on the sword and executed a descending sword technique from the sky, catching Cain, who was still charging up. Don't think pure brute force can be called swordsmanship. You're just stronger than normal people, but what I want to say is your brain really doesn't work at all at this point. Cain was provoked by my words without another word. He swung his great sword and charged forward. But now he was full of openings just as his attack was about to land. I immediately kicked to change his attack trajectory. Then I leaped high while dodging the incoming attack. I also used the rotation in the air to elegantly slash him several times, but even now C still hadn't realized the power gap between us. His attack speed looked like slow motion in my eyes, and after dodging his thrust, I stepped directly on Cain's blade, then swung my sword in a fluid motion, successfully cutting a wound on his neck, looking at his cut skin. Cain also understood I wasn't even using my full strength in battle, otherwise the skin definitely wouldn't have just split on the surface. When did you train your swordsmanship to this level? Hearing this, I gave him a cold glance, then threw my sword aside and said, my abilities aren't just limited to swordsmanship. Next I'll fight you with just these bare fists. And moreover, I bet another 2,000 gold coins on my victory. The people around thought I was crazy after all. No matter how strong fists were, they couldn't withstand Cain's great sword attacks. In contrast, the man in black breathed a sigh of relief. He had thought their side would definitely lose it. Seems even heaven stands on our side. You really are both useless and prone to acting crazy. Little did they know, I just wanted them all to witness properly how I could completely dominate the so-called genius of our generation in every aspect. And as the person in charge of betting called out for the match to continue, Cain immediately took off his coat, grabbed his great sword, and launched a fierce thrust attack at me. Sure enough, stupid people don't understand the lesson of learning from mistakes. Even without weapons, your attack still looks slow in my eyes. Just as I duck a dodge, while simultaneously taking a sidestep to Cain's zero defense position, a direct punch made his right thigh experience a paralysis combo. Then I charged my fist downward, a rising dragon punch hitting hard on his jawbone. Seeing him crouching on the ground, taking a full 10 seconds to recover, I immediately taunted him, deliberately. Stand up. I haven't even warmed up yet being provoked like this. Cain was so angry his lungs nearly exploded. He was seen grabbing his great sword again and mindlessly charging while I dodged his thrust and slash. In an instant, firmly gripped his upper and lower arm, then exerted force, suddenly nearly twisting Cain's right arm into a pretzel. But even though he was beaten so badly, Cain's desire to win remained. Deeply rooted after all, only by killing me would that Lord help their house lows return to its peak. But that was just wishful thinking in front of absolute strength. Cain could only take the beating finally after being bombarded by my 49 consecutive punches. The pig-faced Cain had no strength left to resist. Then I grabbed his hair and berated him. I truly feel sorry for your father. Your father wanted so much to elevate beyond the foundation of allied nations, but you as his son came to destroy House Perham. However, my words also made Cain recall memories from several years ago at that time when his family was declining. His father still forcibly helped House Perham, which was about to be destroyed. Cain thought there was no need to pour water into a bottomless pit, but what he got in return was his father's words. I and Count Perham are friends, That's all. When Kane came back to his senses, he was about to face my full force punch aimed at his face, but in the end, I held back, saying, "Going this far is enough. This also counts as repaying the droplet of kindness from House Lowe's lord back then. I've given you the education you needed, so get up now," I said, extending my hand to the kneeling Kane, and Kane, realizing his mistake, hurriedly bowed his head, asking for my forgiveness. In the end, I forgave him. But that doesn't mean the money lost in this duel could be written off. What should be given must be given at the same time. My victory also won the common people's recognition, though it was also their tragedy, as they had all bet on Kane. Just then, the man in black suddenly rushed onto the arena. He angrily bade Kane not to be defeated by a small setback, reminding him not to forget that Lord's promise. Hearing this, Kane said he didn't want to do it anymore. He would never again do things that harmed the alliance between families, and seeing the man in black rushing onto the arena so anxiously, I squinted my eyes and said with a smile, "Now it's your turn to do what you should do." The man in black felt lost. What should I do the next second? He was scared nearly to death. "This person says he will take Kane's place in entertaining everyone. Eat and drink all you want here. Order." Freely hearing this, the man in black ordered me to immediately take back what I just said. I consoled him, saying, "Don't be too excited. This money would be deducted from the betting losses. However, even after deducting what was spent, he would still need to compensate at least another large chest of gold coins. But if you dare not compensate, you should know what the consequences would be." Thus there was another person hanging their head in sorrow on the arena. Time quickly came to the next morning. I received a chest full of gold coins. With this amount I could probably hire a combat squad, after reasonably allocating some to the business I wanted to develop. But just then, Belinda and Eleanor suddenly burst in. They asked how I planned to spend this money, or rather how I planned to hand it over. But handing it over was absolutely impossible. As for how to spend it, that was naturally my own business. This money was earned with my life. At this point, Belinda told me another matter in a few days. "Young master, you need to attend a birthday party. Better buy expensive gifts in advance, otherwise your fiancé will definitely be very angry." Upon hearing this, I was instantly stunned. What thing? How did I have a fiancé? This information that didn't exist in my previous life's memories truly shocked me for a full 2 years, until I heard the fiancé's name was actually Amelia Leopold. A bad feeling instantly shot to my crown. Sure enough, it was that woman, the traitor, who joined hands with Duke Deline to announce House Perry's destruction in the common people's eyes. Amelia was a gentle and understanding, noble young lady, but behind the scenes, she had always been plotting rebellion plans. She had a nickname in the Northern Territories, the Greedy Witch. Then I asked Belinda when father would return to the main city. She responded that it would be about a week. The timing was completely sufficient. So next I would start my money-making plan, and seeing me suddenly wanting to go out, Belinda anxiously asked, fearing I would waste all the money I just earned. Hearing me leave behind the words "going to extort money," I left the main city to meet Amelia on the other side. Amelia was currently taking off her own shoes for a barefoot girl. She indicated that in her territory everyone except herself must have shoes to wear. Then Amelia also ordered the soldiers behind her to instruct them to rebuild houses for these people who had lost stable homes and prepare enough food for half a year. She did this actually with only one purpose, that was to establish the image of a benevolent ruler in the hearts of the territory's residents. Afterwards, Amelia returned to her back garden. Her personal guard, Berna, was washing her feet. At this time, Amelia said with premeditation, "My father, no matter what, will only make the territory's residents obey unconditionally. But actually, they are more willing to follow a ruler who can give them food and clothing." Hearing this, Berna followed up, saying recently the young lady has indeed done things very conducive to building popular support, which will definitely play a big role in the future. Success or situation. Unexpectedly, the next second Amelia actually stepped on BNF's face. "Don't change the subject for me. Tell me why you lost the duel with the first sword of the North Birth. Explained I was afraid my victory would attract unnecessary attention and might even affect the exposure of your whereabouts. Young lady, now is absolutely not the time to show our hand. Then Amelia also inquired about the business situation of her merchant group, Birth, indicated that recently all the reconstruction materials after House Perry's battles with monsters were purchased from their merchant group, and the money collected was about the amount of annual aid your father Count Leipold gives to House Perum. Moreover, the merchant group had also recruited all the soldiers who left House Perum, with quite many strong ones. Well done, Birth. But before you fully strengthen your power, absolutely cannot expose your true face at this time. One of Count Leo's servants walked over. His sudden appearance clearly offended Amelia. But just as BNF stood up preparing to teach him a good lesson, the person anxiously said that it was Amelia's fiancé who called him. He said he had very important matters that needed to meet with the young lady face to face. Face the scene changes in the reception room. Amelia is scolding me for my lack of etiquette, saying that even engaged couples need to send word ahead to make an appointment before meeting. Hearing this, I respond that I came to wish her an early happy birthday, wanting to give her an unexpected surprise. Then I give her a wild flower I picked from the roadside as a gift. I tell her this is an expensive flower I bought from a merchant group, its fragrance perfectly matching her temperament, and suggest she could buy flowers from them in the future. Hearing this, Amelia asks for the merchant group's name, but when I mention it's the Actium Company, she immediately stands up to leave the reception room as this merchant group is under her control. Now that I've received your gift, there's nothing else you should leave. I have important matters to attend to. Suddenly, my gaze becomes sharp and murderous. Amelia Leipold, sit down. The pressure I release is something she immediately feels unlike anything. Before, she couldn't have imagined that the once worthless young master who didn't dare speak to her could now frighten her with just one sentence. Seeing her reaction, I get straight to the point, telling Amelia that besides giving her a gift, I want her to give me 10,000 gold coins. This instantly leaves Amelia dumbfounded. So, you suddenly came to find me just to borrow money. If it's about borrowing, your father should come personally. Not you. Hearing this, I state that this money has nothing to do with my father. I simply want to extort it. Then I smugly reveal another piece of information to Amelia, telling her I already knew why she definitely won't marry me. The guard currently standing outside the door will be her real husband once she becomes the Lord of Leipold. And given the fierce competition among Leipold heirs, what would they think if it was revealed that she had secretly built up her own power? Base, but I speak so brazenly. Yet Amelia still responds calmly. Even if it's a joke, you'd better not spread these words around, or else. I cut off her words before she can finish. So give me 10,000 gold coins, and I'll keep your secrets. What if I don't give it to you? After saying this, Amelia immediately calls for Birth. I recognize this fellow as a formidable opponent in my previous life. He was ranked among the top 5 swordsmen in the Northern Territories. Though his strength hasn't reached that level yet, Amelia's intention is clearly to kill me, but I still warn them. Both, if I die here today, a war between our territories would surely break out. Can you bear that responsibility? Amelia waves her hand dismissively, saying it doesn't matter because your death today will simply be recorded as my personal guard killing a ruffian who was harassing me. So Birth, eliminate this waste immediately as you command. Give me 2 and 1 to 2 seconds. Their words bring me immense satisfaction, since this is the path you've chosen. Don't blame me for showing no mercy. Just as I draw my sword to face Burner, suddenly one of the suits of AR behind me explodes. An assassin, wielding a long sword, bursts out from inside. Fortunately, I react quickly enough to flip backwards and dodge, kicking a chair into the air to intercept their sneak attack. Then, in the split second before they land, I deliver a powerful kick right to their lower regions. The force is so strong it sends them flying out the window, seeing their secret weapon instantly defeated. Berth and Amelia are both shocked for a full 2 and 1-2 years. In contrast, I smile mockingly and comment on their methods. This is quite a nice way to treat guests, but if you really think this would pose any threat to me, you'd better go back to your mother's womb and start over with. That said, I grip my sword and charge forward, ready to strike first and catch them off guard. However, even though Berth hasn't reached his peak state, his strength still can't be underestimated. I then question Berth as a knight. Don't you understand anything about chivalry to this? Berna responds decisively, since you pose a threat to my master's life as her personal guard. I naturally have just cause to execute you. He then uses his arm to firmly lock my weapon in place, then raises his sword intending to finish me off right there. But this is child's play to me. I use my body's rotation to immediately break free from Bernap's constraint, and using the momentum from the spin, I channel power into a kick that strikes hard at his kidney. This hit sends him flying a full 10 mers away. At this moment, Berna finally realizes something's wrong. The intelligence he gathered was incorrect. In his previous knowledge, I was just a worthless person who could only bluff. But the techniques I've displayed today don't look like something a novice could do at all behind him. Amelia, seriously? Questions, didn't you say you'd finish this in 3 seconds? It's been 2 and 1-2 minutes now. Don't tell me you can't even defeat a worthless person, or after today you can pack your bags and get out, though Berth wants to explain properly. He ultimately holds his tongue earlier. He was holding back to protect Amelia behind him, but to be able to stay forever by his master's side as her sword in the next round. Until the end of the battle, Berna will no longer hold back any of his strength. Watching him instantly burst forth with amazing magical power, I do feel somewhat surprised, but unexpectedly this fellow starts fighting dirty too. Taking advantage of my half-second distraction to swing his sword down at my neck, even though I can still barely dodge. Based on my reactions, his speed has increased more than 2-fold. His sword still manages to cut a gash on my face in contrast. Berth doesn't even give me time to breathe. Unleashing a storm of sword strikes against me, he's trying to force me to expose an opening, then cut me down with his blade. At this moment, in Amelia's eyes, she finally understands why Berth was briefly suppressed by me. Earlier, besides not using his full strength, it turns out I had awakened a mana core and could use magical power. Meanwhile, I know that continuing to defend passively will eventually lead to trouble, so in the next round I launch my counterattack. But this Berth uses the same technique as before, trying to lock my sword with his arm, but the same move that didn't work the first time won't work now either. Once again, I use rotation to evade his attack, but just as I try to kick his kidney like before, BF's reaction speed completely exceeds my expectations in the blink of an eye. He locks my foot, holding me suspended midair, then he spins and slams me hard into the floor. This impact definitely teaches me a lesson. Even if the same technique can succeed, you definitely can't use it again too quickly. Seeing Byrne's fatal strike approaching years of mercenary experience tell me I can use his sword to save myself, so I first tilt my head to dodge the blade, then kick off his sword using it like a wall, barely managing to backflip out of the current danger. In contrast, Byrne taunts relentlessly. I never expected the young master of House Perun was hiding his strength all along, rather than say you systematically learn swordsmanship. These techniques are more like common moves for fighting monsters. This might be lethal on a chaotic battlefield, but it won't work on me today. You absolutely won't leave here alive, but right now, I'm also worried about whether my magical power can hold out. Though it's a bit strenuous, I still decide to go all out. After all, I'm very clear about one thing: when facing an opponent stronger than yourself, the closer the combat distance, the more disadvantaged I'll be. So next, I need to create distance and look for a breakthrough. Only this way can I defeat an opponent I shouldn't be able to win against, as I violently pull the magical power lines. I've gathered my sword that Berth had thrown, takes advantage of the moment he's not paying attention to his back, and perfectly lands a sneak attack on the back of his head. Then I step forward and deliver another knee strike to him. But just as I'm about to end the duel with a downward slash, Burnoff suddenly regains his senses and forcefully blocks it after using brute force to send me flying. He turns back to instruct his master Amelia. My lady, please leave through the back door. Now I'll finish him quickly and rejoin you at this moment. Berth is fully prepared to die in battle. Even if he dies, he'll take me with him because he absolutely cannot let someone who knows his master's secrets leave here alive, Berth. I advise you to surrender. I admit my strength was indeed inferior to yours earlier, but now you have absolutely no chance of beating me. But Amelia has no intention of running away. She decides to find the soldier she arranged beforehand to fully assist Berth at the same time. She becomes certain of one thing, that the rumor about me single-handedly defeating 5 assassins who tried to kill Elena couldn't be false, although she doesn't know how I managed to become so strong in such a short time, or if I'd been pretending to be useless while hiding my strength all along. But now she absolutely cannot let someone who knows her secrets and publicly humiliated her leave alive, however. Just as she's about to reach her destination, Amelia's expression suddenly turns to horror because all the soldiers she had arranged beforehand have been completely eliminated by someone wearing a black cloak. At this point, the figure turns around without hesitation. It's been a long time. Lady Amelia, upon learning that the person's identity is my maid, Belinda. Amelia's only thought of survival is to turn and run, but it's too late. Belinda flashes behind her in an instant, placing a dagger against her throat. Where are you going, Lady Amelia? The young master instructed me to protect you well at this time. Belinda notices the spider at the corner of Amelia's mouth, so she takes it off and throws it on the ground, crushing it to pieces then, with a look of contempt. She says, I once overheard a conversation between Count Lold and our lord. When you were young, your siblings always bullied you with spiders, but you ended up reversing heaven and earth, actually raising spiders to bite those who bullied you into serious injury. So this behavior of keeping a spider at the corner of your mouth, is it overcoming psychological trauma for you? Or is it for self-aggrandizement?